I first got interested in production quite a while ago. I think about 2005 I first started dabbling with my own productions and recording. It was pretty crude at the time, but now I think I've honed that quite a lot, and I've worked with a number of bands and my own music too, with quite a lot of inspiration all over the place, really finding whatever I can. Producers of metal, rock, even pop, bits of R&B and a bit of everything. My name's Rich Hinks of Rich Hinks Productions. I'm a music producer, engineer. I mix, master and produce music, all right here in my studio. I first started playing piano at the age of 4 or 5, I think it was. And I did all the classical grades. I think I got to maybe grade 5 or 6, and then I kind of got distracted by guitars. But during that time, I also studied alto saxophone up to the grade 8, which we have in the UK. And then I think when I was sort of mid-teens, I discovered guitar and bass. Bass is actually probably my main instrument now, and since then it's just sort of evolved from there, practicing bass, guitar, bit of drums, but mostly learning how to record properly and do everything right and get everything sounding really good. The first album I produced was A Mind's Portrait by Aeon Zen, which is my own band, which was in 2009. I think I was 20 or 21, so it's making me feel old now, but it was a number of years ago. So I've been mixing, mastering and producing, recording for almost 10 years now. When I come in with a producer's perspective, it's sometimes interesting getting them to see things from another angle, try different ideas, even if they don't like them, just to try them, experiment with things, see what they like, see what they don't, but at least then, you know, you've got a second opinion, because that matters so much when music is involved. Getting an outside view is something that really helps the music shine through and something different, you know. I mostly specialize in metal, thrash metal, progressive metal, power metal, a bit of all metal. But I think over the last 10 years it's changed quite a lot in terms of what people expect, because it wasn't as based around home recording and everyone having their own opinion on everything and everyone knowing what they're doing, and they can look up things and know exactly what you're doing all the time. So sometimes it's a bit more intense, but I think people generally have a higher standard in terms of sound quality. So about 2 years ago, I first started touring with Annihilator as the bass player. And since then, it's sort of evolved. And for the new Annihilator album, I actually went over to Canada for a month or two, and alongside Jeff Waters, who's written almost the entirety of every single Annihilator album ever, I actually went out there and co-wrote the whole album with him, which is something that the band's never done before. So I helped co-produce parts of that album, and I also engineered parts as well, including guitar tones, bass, helping with drum parts. I think the skills that I did have helped me work in that environment, but then I also learnt about making sure that you get everything right from the source. Source tone is so important. I think lots of people, say recording at home or just mixing at home, don't realize how important source tone is. And if you put the work in to get results at the beginning, then by the time you get to the end of the process, it's going to be so much better. I think now that home recording is so prevalent and it's so readily available, it just makes it seem that much more appealing to people, when often it can be good, and it can be good to maybe do parts of an album that way. But I think if you're completely insular in that way all the time, it can often be difficult to really get something that stands out, especially if it's, say, a second or third album, then you can often get stuck in the same tracks. Whereas if you choose an outside producer and work with someone, such as myself, then I think the results can be a lot greater. So you can also get a lot of different ideas, different sounds that you wouldn't have even thought of, and you can even get your mix sounding bigger than you ever thought you could. The band I've just been working with, Blind Summit, we recorded all the drums. The drummer actually improvised one section, and which is first something which you wouldn't get if you use sample libraries, but actually coming to a studio, recording real drums, you get the chance to experiment a bit more. But the drummer was improvising on a groove, and that actually ended up with an idea I had to slightly change the guitar part so it actually fits in with the drums. Whereas if there was no producer involved, if it was all done home recorded, that never would have happened, and the guitar part wouldn't have even been considered changed at all. Music and production have always been my biggest passions, so if you're interested in working with someone who really wants to get your music sounding its best, then check out some of the stuff I've produced and feel free to get in touch.